Hey friends, hello and welcome back. In this video, we'll talk about the poem To Autumn and its analysis. The title of the poem, Ode to Autumn, is actually To Autumn and not Ode to Autumn. There is no doubt that it is an ode. It is addressed to autumn, the season of fruits, but there is no word ode in the title. However, it is often written as Ode to Autumn. In all other addressed poems of Keats, the word ode is used, but not in this one. Therefore, it is different from Keats's other odes. Let us understand the settings. The poem is set in autumn. The setting of the first stanza is marked by the sunlight planning to ripen the fruits on the trees and vines. The second stanza is set around the process of harvesting. Autumn is personified sitting in the midst of its store, and in the last stanza, setting changes to sounds and music of the season. The music of autumn is contrasted with the music of spring. What is the appeal? We all know that romantic poets were great admirers of the nature. Keats is intoxicated by the sights, sounds, and smells of nature. This intoxication enables him to create the beautiful imagery. He describes autumn as drowsed with the fumes of poppies. Poppies are used to create opium. Now, let us try to understand metrics of the poem. The rhyme scheme of each stanza of this poem is A, B, A, B, C, D, E, D, C, C, E. Each stanza is divided into quatrain and a septet. The meter is iambic pentameter in general. Penta means 5. Each line is made of 5 meters, and pattern of each meter is iambic. Iambic means each meter contains one unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. There are also a few exceptions to this metrical pattern in this poem. Let us understand this with the help of the example. Look at the line, season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. Close bosom friend of the maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run, to bend with apples mossed cottage trees, and fill all the fruit with ripeness to the core, to swell the gourd and plump the hazel shells with a sweet kernel. Try to understand these lines. In each of the line there are 5 meters. However, in the first 3 lines, the first 3 meters are not iambic but trochaic. That is, season. In season, C is stressed while zin is unstressed. In close ba, close is stressed and ba is unstressed. But you look at the rest of the syllables in these 2 lines. Season of mists and mellow fruitfulness. The first meter is trochaic and rest of the meters are iambic. Same is the case with second line and the third line, and rest of the lines are strictly in iambic pentameter. That is the metrical pattern of this poem. Now let us try to understand the few examples of enjambment or run-on line. Enjambment is when earlier line runs into the next line of the poem without a pause. Have a look at these examples. The first is conspiring with him how to load and bless with fruit the vines that round the thatch eaves run. See the second example, to swell the gourd and plump the hazel shells with a sweet kernel. See the next line, sometimes whoever seeks abroad may find thee sitting careless on the granary floor. And another one, while thy hook spares the next swath and all its twined flowers. In each of these 4 examples, the first line rhymes into the second line. Now let us try to understand the figure of autumn personified here in this poem. Autumn is personified, and it is personified as a person. Seasons were typically personified as beautiful women in European art. Therefore, the person here is a woman and not a man. Look at line number 2 and 3. Autumn is personified as a woman who conspires with the sun to fill the fruit with sweet kernel. Look at the lines, close bosom friend of maturing sun, conspiring with him how to load and bless. Look at line number 12. The speaker asks a rhetorical question to introduce a connection he believes the reader will recognize between autumn and the harvest. The line is, who hath not seen thee oft amid thy store? See lines 13 to 15. The personification of autumn feels most explicit in these lines, where long hair of autumn are gently lifted by the wind. Winnowing wind is an example of alliteration here. Implicitly, her hair is compared to chaff, the inedible part of a grain that blows away after the threshing process. See the lines? Sometimes whoever seeks abroad may find thee sitting careless on the granary floor, thy hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind. Now look at the lines 16 to 18. Here, autumn is a laborer in the field taking a nap after working hard to harvest the flowers. The hook too is personified. It is presented as a conscious thing that chooses to spare the swath of flowers. Look at the lines, or on harp-reefed furrow, sound asleep, drowsed with the fume of poppies, while thy hook spares the next swath and all its twined flowers. Now look at the lines 19 and 20. Lines are, and sometimes like a gleaner thou dost keep steady thy leaden head across a brook. Here, from a laborer, autumn becomes a gleaner, like a gleaner. In this simile, which compares her to the people who pick up the scraps from the field after the harvest. Look at line 21 and 22. Autumn's look, the appearance on her face while watching the cider, is an example of metonymy when the word patient is attached. An expression cannot itself be patient, but her look is associated with the patience of a character. See the example, or by cider press with patient look, thou watchest the last oozings hours by hours. Weight and ripeness is something that is important in this poem. Autumn is the season when things fatten up and come to fruition. It is a season of harvest and abundance, one with which we associate the overflowing. Keats tries to illustrate the incredible thickness and richness of autumn in the language of the poem. He contrasts images of lightness and heaviness of the things falling and things flying. Look at the examples, line number 3. Fruit doesn't just grow on the vines are loaded with the fruit, the way you might load a shelf with the heavy items. This is evident in the line, conspiring with him how to load and bless. Now look at line 7, to swell the gourd and plump the hazel shell. This is also, gourd is swollen with ripeness and hazelnuts are plump with meat. There is an implicit metaphor in the line number 15. Autumn's hair are like the light chaff that surrounds a heavy seed. On a threshing floor, the weight of the grains prevents them from being blown away in the air. The line is like this, thy hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind. Look at line number 20, steady thy leaden head across a brook. Autumn's head is described as leaden or heavy when she crosses over the brook. Take a look at these 3 lines. Then in a wailful choir the small gnats moan among the river shallows, borne aloft or sinking as the light wind lives or dies. Look at the image. The line contains a vivid image in which gnats rise and fall in consort with strength of wind. There are pastoral elements in the poem. A pastoral poem is inspired by shepherds, shepherdesses, and other forms of simple life in rural settings. Pastorals commonly feature natural scenery so rich and vivid that you could drown in it. Look at line 4 and 5. Pastoral artwork often show how nature and humans coexist within a landscape. Here, the vines run around the thatch ewes and mossy trees grow next to the cottages. Look at line 30 to 33. Here, the most commonly used images are used. Lambs on the hillside, crickets in the hedge, and birds in the garden-croft. There is also something about spring and summer and autumn. Autumn is contrasted with spring in this poem. Spring has songs, but autumn songs are also equally good. Line 23, speaker asks a rhetorical question to begin the 3rd stanza. He refers to the tradition of celebrating springtime. Let's talk about a few themes in the poem. The most important thing in the poem that I find is man and the natural world. The poem to autumn has specific natural landscapes and images. The first stanza offers images of the interaction between humans and the plants that surround them. The second describes the production of agriculture and natural process that is controlled by the people. Natural world is there in all the 3 stanzas. Time can be called another theme of the poem. As the poem speaks about season autumn, time naturally becomes one of its themes. Autumn is contrasted with spring in concluding part of the poem. These 2 seasons represent the time. Wonders of autumn is one of the most important things in the themes in this poem. This poem brings out the wonders of autumn. Poet speaks of bounty of the harvest, the dropping of seeds that will become next year's flowers, and the symphony of sights and sounds at sunset and everything like that. Now to the last part, which I think is the most important part in all the poems of John Keats, that is imagery. Imagery is a picture created out of words. Image in poetry is a picture created out of words. What are the instances in the poem where pictures are created? Can you have some examples from the poem? I'm going to give you a few examples. I have collected 8 of them, and I'll speak of those 8 instances, and you will try to see what picture is actually created. See, number 1, thee sitting careless on the granary floor, thy hair soft lifted by the winnowing wind. The first one. You can also look at the picture. Second is, or on a harp-reefed furrow, sound asleep, drowsed with the fume of poppies. This is another image created. The third image created is, and sometimes like a gleaner thou dost keep steady thy laden head across a brook. See the image created. Fourth image, oh, by cider press with patient look thou watchest the last oozings hours by hours. See another image. You can see the pictures. This is the fifth image. Then in wailful choir the small gnats moan among the river shallows, borne aloft or sinking as the light wind lives or dies. That is another one. And there are 3 more images created in single lines. For image number 6, and full-grown lambs loud bleat from the hilly boum. Image number 7, the redbreast whistles from a garden-croft. And image number 8, the gathering shallows twitter in the skies. To me, Keats' imagery is extremely sensuous and most wonderful imagery created in English poetry. I hope you also like the images created by John Keats in his poem. Try to understand them and hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have liked it, like, share and subscribe. Do accept my apologies for the mistakes if there are any in the video. Thank you very much for watching.